Arizona takes center stage as those on the top of the ticket from both political parties rally for voters in our state today.
Plus, college isn't cheap. We take a closer look at how undocumented students are getting the help they need to succeed and earn degrees.
And Black communities are facing a triple pandemic. What does that entail? We break it down later in this half hour.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Rasara Wordsworth.
And I'm Tyler Mannion. Thank you for joining us.
There is no doubt just how important Arizona is in the race to the White House. Visits by Vice President Mike Pence, former Vice President Joe Biden, and Senator Kamala Harris all on the same day, all in Maricopa County, the day after the vice presidential debate. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are campaigning together for the first time since the Democratic Convention here in Phoenix. Dylan McKim joins us now from the Broadcast Center with details of the visit. Dylan?
Yeah, Vice President Biden and Senator Harris started their trip in Arizona by introducing a 15-page policy plan to address Native American issues. The Democratic duo met with Arizona tribal leaders at the Heard Museum this afternoon to discuss the proposal. The plan laid out by Biden and Harris looks to tackle a variety of topics, including remedying health care disparities, protecting and restoring tribal lands, and addressing climate change. Biden and Harris then hopped on a bus to begin their Soul of the Nation bus tour. The two drove to Phoenix and Tempe, where they met with local business owners and spoke with Arizona voters. Their visit comes on the second day of early voting here in Arizona. Before embarking on their bus trip, Senator Harris talked about how important this upcoming election has on America's future.
This election, more than any other in our lifetime, will affect every part of our lives, with consequences that may last generations. And there is so much at stake. Our nation is at a crossroads. Just think, all at the same time, we are experiencing the pandemic, the recession, a reckoning on racial justice, a changing climate that's battering our coastlines and setting the West on fire, and the future of healthcare hangs on top of it all.
According to a New York Times Siena College poll, Vice President Biden leads President Trump by 8 points here in Arizona, with only 6% of likely voters saying they were undecided. President Trump won Arizona by 4 points back in 2016. In the Broadcast Center, Dylan McKim, Cronkite News.
Vice President Pence is also here today, stumping for President Trump, who is at the White House recovering from the coronavirus. It's his fourth trip to Arizona this year. Vice President Pence wrapped up his speech about 2 hours ago. During his stump speech, Pence talked about how important Arizona is to this election.
We're here for one reason and one reason only, and that is that Arizona and America need 4 more years of President Donald Trump. It's on, Arizona. We are 26 days away from another great victory for the American people, and the road to victory runs right through Arizona.
Pence also talked about the administration's support for the military and shared that his son is stationed at the Marine Corps Air Station in Yuma. He also spoke about court appointments and supporting law and order.
As for last night's Salt Lake City showdown between the vice presidential candidates, it was vastly different from last week's first presidential debate. Vice President Mike Pence and Senator Kamala Harris facing off after President Trump and at least 10 other senior officials at the White House tested positive for COVID-19. The candidates showing their differences in policy and personality.
President Donald Trump, who brought all of that experience 4 years ago.
Thank you, Vice
and
President.
turned this economy around by cutting taxes, rolling back regulation.
We are talking about an election in 27 days, where last week, the President of the United States took a debate stage in front of 70 million Americans and refused to condemn white supremacists.
Harris put the focus on the man who wasn't there, President Trump, and criticized the administration's handling of the coronavirus pandemic, while Pence painted Harris as a progressive by highlighting her past support for the Green New Deal and Medicare for All legislation.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris consistently talk about mandates, and not just mandates with the coronavirus, but a government takeover of health care,
Thank you,
the Green New Deal, all government control.
We have seen a pattern with this administration, which is they don't believe in science. And Joe's plan is about saying we're going to deal with it, but we're also going to create jobs.
President Trump says he is refusing to attend the next presidential debate after the organizer has decided to hold it virtually. Joe Biden agreed to take part in the town hall-style second debate on October 15th. The Commission on Presidential Debates announced early this morning the two men would debate from separate locations to protect the health and safety of everyone involved. The town hall attendees and the moderator will be located in Miami, but Trump says he won't participate virtually, and he doesn't believe he's contagious. For that to be true, he would have to be at least 10 days out from the first time he experienced symptoms.
Undocumented students in Arizona struggled to pay even a discounted tuition rate at the 3 state universities. Cronkite News reporter Kylie Cochran explains how these students are gaining access to higher education and how a lawsuit may indirectly help them pay for tuition.
I questioned that a lot, like freshman and sophomore year. I was questioning why I was going through college, knowing that it would be very difficult for me to get a job.
Getting a job is on the mind of most college students, including Juan Cisneros, a sophomore majoring in computer science at Benedictine University in Mesa.
Then I realized the career path I really like is very neat because there are some companies that are willing to hire people like me.
Cisneros is one of an estimated 9,000 undocumented college students in Arizona out of 454,000 nationwide, according to a New American Economy report. That is 2% of the state's student population. He says he moved to Arizona from Mexico when he was 7 and grew up in Arizona's K-12 system.
We cannot be in the classroom encouraging students, if you do X, Y, and Z, if you do all of these things, you're gonna be successful and you're gonna go to college.
Reina Montoya is a DACA recipient and the founder of Aliento, a group that advocates for undocumented youth.
We're technically lying and deceiving our students if we're not providing the specific pathways that they can follow.
Proposition 300 passed by Arizona voters in 2006 and prevents undocumented Arizona students from getting in-state tuition. 14 years later, options remain largely the same. In 2019, public universities did change their policies to offer non-residents who graduated from Arizona high schools a cheaper rate at 150% of the in-state tuition price. But without opportunities for state financial aid, it wasn't enough for students like Cisneros.
Choosing a private university gave me more benefits because that means that I can actually get scholarship from them.
And undocumented students are not alone.
It has become even sometimes unattainable for U.S. citizens if they don't qualify for scholarships. So I think that we have that bigger problem.
The Arizona Attorney General has been questioning the cost of public universities in a 3-year legal battle against the Arizona Board of Regents. According to immigration attorney Daniel Rodriguez, the argument is based on Arizona's constitution.
When they put in the constitution that state public colleges in Arizona are to be as nearly free as possible, they meant that because they wanted everyone in the state to have access to an affordable education for the good of the state.
If the Arizona Supreme Court rules in the Attorney General's favor, undocumented students could be indirectly benefited by tuition decreases for everyone. Despite uncertainty about his finances and his future, Cisneros is pushing forward.
What keeps me moving a lot of the time is just thinking about how much my mom really gave up just for us to come here.
Kylie Cochran, Cronkite News.
The Arizona Board of Regents released a statement after the oral arguments disputing the Attorney General's authority on this issue. At this time, the case is under review and awaiting a decision.
All amenities in Phoenix City parks will start reopening today, thanks to a vote during yesterday's City Council meeting. Phoenix's public parks, trails, and golf courses have remained open throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, but outdoor recreational areas like playgrounds have been closed for months. The city suggests people take the following precautions to help stop the spread of the coronavirus. Do not use public recreational amenities if you start to feel sick. Wear a mask or face covering. Bring your own wipes and hand sanitizer and keep a safe distance of 6 feet or more from others. Go to phoenix.gov/parks for more information.
Arizonans were relieved when gyms reopened in September, but believe it or not, in California, a state stereotyped for its health and fitness, many residents still don't have access to their gyms. Kelsey Colisi tells us how gym owners are fighting to be recognized as an essential business there amid the COVID-19 pandemic.
Federal health officials say adults should do at least 150 minutes of aerobic exercise a week. But heat waves and wildfires are limiting outdoor workouts for many, and COVID-19 restrictions mean a majority of California residents are still unable to go into a gym. Gym owners have formed the California Fitness Alliance, following in the footsteps of Arizona gyms to sue for the right to reopen. The belief uniting these gyms is that they provide an essential service and they have the ability to open safely. The LA School of Gymnastics Vice President Tanya Brennanson says her facility has remained free of COVID-19 all summer.
We're taking it very seriously. We've served 600 children since June 12th and over 50 staff members, and there are 0 cases, I'm very proud to say.
Here in Los Angeles County, the COVID-19 risk level is at the state's highest, widespread, meaning that gyms and other facilities must keep their indoors closed. Some facilities have tried to operate outside on sidewalks and in parking lots, and though that solved the problem for now, it hasn't solved all of their problems.
The premise is that you utilize specific equipment for specific areas of the body and training, and not everything can be transported daily, set up daily.
The California Fitness Alliance's lawyer, Scott Street, said his clients filed this lawsuit reluctantly.
My client's goal is really to be able to open in a way that is meaningful and that works for all of the clubs around the state.
Some California counties have been able to open indoors at limited capacity, but that might not last. In his most recent COVID-19 update, Governor Gavin Newsom said that in many places, COVID-19 numbers are slowly beginning to rise again. In Los Angeles, Kelsey Colisi, Cronkite News.
Luckily, here in Arizona, all counties have reached state benchmarks to allow for safe reopenings of indoor gym facilities.
Coming up next on Cronkite News, art heals. We'll introduce you to a visual artist, a filmmaker, and a family therapist who are all exploring the impact of art during the coronavirus pandemic. Don't go away.
Stephanie Tsai, news anchor. I think women have come a long, long way when women were still struggling to just get the right to vote. So it's important to recognize the sacrifices that women have made. Those rights should not be taken for granted. My message to young girls is to read. Read about the struggles that women have been through and the ways they've overcome them as you go forth in a society that is not yet fully equal.
Here we go, lights up. Whoa.
As artists, we conduct our educations in public. You can never know whether it's going to be a success. One just has to risk it.
It's you and the work and the place. It's a very particular relationship.
Here's our lens. Tell us what you think.
Friday night at 9 on Arizona PBS.
For Hispanic Heritage Month, we followed the journey of 2 artists in the Valley who found solace in their art during the pandemic. Each artist gave us a glimpse into their chosen art form and explained how art heals them. This performance is called Good Trouble Bucket. It represents change. Gloria Granados and Joan Barron created the performance using important symbols. Water for liberation, spreading clay on a fence representing the creation of a new way of life, because they are tired of what they see.
Every day we're hearing on the news of all these terrible things that continue to happen to immigrants. And it's just really unjust to take advantage of a person's labor and so easily just dismiss them.
Pita Juarez has a new approach to life.
Oh, what kind of Mexican are you?
Her heart is behind the scenes. She spends most of her time working on her films. You racist, sexist bigot, is one of them.
I've always been the type of person to take on more than I should, and that brings me a lot of stress. But the things that I take on are all things that I'm super passionate about.
Both artists live in the valley.
The most important object that
Granados is from Guanajuato, Mexico, and Juarez from Guatemala. Coronavirus has affected the country in different ways, and according to the CDC, mental health outcomes are worse in racial/ethnic minorities. A 2010 study conducted by the National Institute of Health found that creative engagement can decrease anxiety, stress, and mood disturbances. Rhiannon Chavez is a therapist who says she knows it firsthand.
Art therapy is probably one of my favorite things to use, especially if they're willing to kind of explore with you and actually really start thinking of it as more abstract.
Granados and Juarez say art is a powerful method to combat this issue. For me, art therapy looks like dancing, but for filmmaker Peter Juarez, her chosen art form sometimes brings stress.
So it's like a weird balance.
For Granados, besides releasing stress, art also helps her to express her heritage.
Creating art and having it be about something that is so personal for me has been a healing practice for me.
It also brings me so much joy when I'm editing and creating stories, and I'm just like, oh, this is exactly what I worked so hard for.
For Sarah Wordsworth, Cronkite News. Juarez is currently working on a new film about environmental racism. Granados will continue to use her art as a way to tell her story, and Chavez plans to implement even more art-based practices in her work as a marriage and family therapist.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.